something extraordinary is coming. My memoir, The Hospitality Leader's Roadmap, Move from Ordinary to Extraordinary, launches on October 15th on Amazon. This book shares my journey from a 15-year-old line cook to seasoned leader in the hospitality industry, packed with insights on leadership, resilience, and transformation. Whether you're an aspiring leader or a seasoned professional, you'll find practical wisdom and inspiration to elevate your career. Mark your calendars, and remember, 10% of sales from October 15th until the end of 2024 will benefit Chow. Grab your copy on Amazon.com on Tuesday, October 15th. If someone could give you the tool to effortlessly manage a single food ingredient and save $6,800 a month, why wouldn't you take advantage of it? Matt Wampler is an ex-operator turned tech founder. He spent close to a decade as a Jimmy John's franchisee, winning awards for the highest comp and highest sales increase in the chain. Matt is currently the CEO of CLEARCOGS, with a mission to empower restaurants with the information they need to run more smoothly and profitably. He's deeply passionate about the industry and is hyper-focused on bridging the gap between the potential of AI and the everyday realities of running a restaurant. Join us for this conversation that includes how CLEARCOGS gathers all of your data to build a daily execution playbook for your restaurant, how AI helps restaurants sharpen their understanding of what works and how to build on it, and how CLEARCOGS offers support with sales forecasts and labor costs to help restaurants achieve success more efficiently, allowing them to focus their time and energy on what matters most. Welcome to the No Hesitations podcast, the show where restaurant leaders learn tools, tactics, and habits from the world's greatest operators. I'm your host, Kristen Marvin, with Solutions by Kristen. I've spent the last 2 decades in the restaurant industry and now partner with restaurant owners to develop their leaders and scale their businesses without wasting time and energy so they can achieve work-life balance and make more money. You can now engage with me on the show and share topics you'd like to hear about, leadership lessons you want to learn, and any feedback that you have. Simply click the link at the top of the show notes, and I'll give you a shout out on a future episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to connecting. Matt, thanks for being here, man.
I'm excited.
So, Matt, let's start with your early days in the restaurant business. I mean, you started managing when you were 20 years old.
Yeah, I'm an ex-owner operator. I took over my first restaurant, got into the industry at 21, taking over a failed Jimmy John's franchise from a guy who needed out of his lease. Learned from the school of hard knocks, slept on the back of the store floor more than a few times.
Did you
know
really?
what it's like not being sure whether you're going to make payroll. And now I'm trying to give back and make the world of restaurant operations a little bit easier for those who are filling the shoes I used to wear.
At the age of 21, did you really fully understand the pressure and the impact of not being able to make payroll?
Oh my gosh, no. And I don't think anybody that enters the restaurant industry ever fully appreciates just how hard it is.
Yeah. Yeah. How tell us a little bit about that journey. So you had to go in, you said you needed to take over or completely flip this failing Jimmy John's. I mean, how did you do it? What tools and resources did you have?
So this is where I give Jimmy John's all the credit, right? This is the beauty of franchising. They had a playbook. My job was to follow the playbook and execute it day in and day out. I, as a 21-year-old, didn't know anything about the restaurant industry. I would have totally failed without that playbook. And so, I give, thanks to them. But, at the end of the day, it's just hard work. It's creating great customer experiences for your customers, making sure the store's cleaned and the staff's there. And if you take care of the fundamentals, like slowly but surely over the next 18 months, we were able to triple sales.
Yeah. So what was in that playbook?
It's the basics. It's the things you don't even really think about, like how often do I clean the ice maker? Do I need to scrub the mop guards around the floor when you're changing the grease trap? It's those fundamentals. If you do this every week, your store stays operational. So what do I prep in the morning? How much bread do I need to bake? All of that was given to us in our systems and procedures. And my job was just to simply follow them.
Nice. And who taught you how to do this? Because it sounds like you took over from a failing operator, right? Who sounds like wanted out. Did he help through your transition, or were you just kind of thrown into the deep end?
Oh, thrown in the deep end. So like when I walked into this restaurant, so I bought it. I didn't live in the city. So I showed up on day one, packed up my U-Haul, hooked it up to the pickup truck, and drove out to the East Coast to take over. This store literally had no air conditioning in the middle of summer. It's DC. It's 110 degrees in the restaurant. The grease trap is overflowing. The moment you could open the door, you'd smell it.
Oh.
And, it was just I think they had like 4 employees at the time. Ice buckets were on top of the cold table compressors to keep them from overheating. So it was a total train wreck. They left it in shambles, and I was the patsy there to, have to pick up the pieces.
Yeah. Why on earth did you decide to take over that store?
You know what? It's a really good question. I was drawn to it. I like the challenge. I like being on my feet. I think my dad gave me the advice. You're 21. You don't have any assets. You have nothing to lose. If you're ever going to take a shot in life, this is the right time.
Love it. Can I ask you what that initial investment was?
Yeah, it was, I won't give you the exact dollars, but
Yeah.
It was not a gigantic sum of money. It was one of those, the guy needed out of the lease and it was hemorrhaging money. And if somebody wants to come in and stop the bleeding, it allowed for a 21-year-old kid to enter the industry.
I love it. What was the biggest lesson you learned during that time?
People. It all starts with people. It all ends with people. How do you give somebody a sense of purpose? How do you get the right people on the ship and point it in the right direction?
Did you have a team of people that stayed with you, or did you have to build from scratch?
Lost everybody. It was not a great situation. There were only 5 people working at the restaurant when I took over. I remember one of the most hard decisions I ever made was I was 4 weeks into this. And my assistant manager, who was the one guy helping hold everything together, saw a moment of vulnerability and said, double my pay or I'm going to walk. And I remember just thinking, I can't run this restaurant without him. I don't know what I'm doing. And if I keep him on, am I going to be just held hostage by anybody who, sees an opportunity? And it was the hardest decision. But ultimately, I said, if you want to walk, walk. And it left me working 10, 12-hour shifts. The store's open 24 hours a day. So I had 120 management hours a week, which you do the math real quick, means 3 of the days I'm working, 24 hours a day and sleeping in the back of the store. And sure enough, you found great people. And 8 weeks later, I was able to get out of that position.
Wow. So it took you 8 weeks to start to turn it around.
Yeah. And that was just the beginning.
Yeah, that's incredible. So where did this love for cogs come from? Were you interested in that during your time managing?
Well, I mean, in restaurants, there's really only 3 numbers that matter to your success. It's revenue, food cost, and labor. And so love it or hate it, you get to know managing food costs quite well.
Yeah. Where did this idea for ClearCogs come from?
I mean, it was born out of the pain that I felt when I was running my operation. Jimmy John's did give us this great playbook. It did set us up for success. It got me to where I'm at. But, you ultimately realize there's a lot of gaps in the playbook. And it's not just for Jimmy John's, it's for everybody. So one of the problems we'd have is I had 5 locations. It's 5 assistant managers that 2 hours prior to close had to decide, do I need to bake another cycle of bread? And they would literally stick their head out the door and say, is it raining outside? Is there a line at the bar? And then they would guess how much bread to bake. and it's emotional, right? If you run out of bread, you've got angry customers and you're not making the deliveries. And I'm probably calling and asking why you're out of bread. So you're always over baking bread and you're throwing it away and it's killing your food costs. So where it came from is, how do we use the data they already have to systematically answer that question? You at this store on this day, the magic number is 17 sticks of bread. If you've got it, cut the oven off and start cleaning. If you don't, bake another cycle of bread.
So how did you take this passion and knowledge and experience and say, okay, I'm going to transition from operations, I'm going to start to venture into the tech world, and then get curious about AI? Walk us through that journey.
It was an iterative process. I sold the restaurants. I went off and did my MBA, and later on in life, really got into the programming and data analytics world, and was just blown away with the technology. I mean, it's like I was running my multi-million-dollar, small Jimmy John's group off of Excel spreadsheets and guessing. All of this modern technology could have fundamentally made my life that much easier. And I just couldn't believe that, nobody was really doing anything with it. And so I called up my now co-founder, Osa, and said, hey, I think there's something here with restaurants. Let's go dig in and see if there's a business to be had here.
What'd you find?
Found, after talking to 50 to 100 restaurants, if you ask why enough times, it all comes back to, I don't know who's going to walk in the door each day. And I'm literally walking in and just waiting for, the phrase, someone just to kick me in the stomach and to get it wrong, and either be, hemorrhaging money because we've got too much there, or, running around trying to clean up the pieces because we got it wrong and we're playing catch up. And so when you really get to that core of how many people are going to walk in the door, that's something that technology can answer with the data you already have.
That's so interesting. When I think about COGS, I'm thinking about just managing what's coming in the door and what's coming out the door, right? From a product perspective. And I love that you're taking it to a guest perspective of being able to plan and execute, right? Which is, it's all kind of encompassed together, but I think I'm looking at it from a different perspective, which is really cool. I love that moment. So when you started to ask these questions and you were understanding what the pain points were from operators, how did the business kind of evolve and come to light from there?
Well, like many businesses, it starts with a call to a family member. So I called my cousin. He's got a couple of Jimmy Johns. And I said, hey, what are you doing for reporting, analytics, all of that? He said, Matt, I'm using the Excel spreadsheet you built. It's amazing. I said, Patrick, that's from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Said, yeah, I know. It's awesome. And we're like, okay, I think we can do better than that. And so we went to go work with him and to answer that fundamental question I had about bread 2 hours prior to close. And we put together a minimum viable product. We put it in his hands. Sure enough, we cut his bread waste by 53% and reduced the number of times that they were running out of bread. And we're like, wow, this really works. Like, this could make a real change in the industry.
I love that. So let's go back to this example of bread. Take us through kind of the cycle of life. Like, how does this process work?
Yeah, so we use AI to sit on top of all of your existing technology. So we're pulling in data from your back of house system, from your POS. We're able to go quantify how many sticks of bread you're using every 15 minutes. And we look at the past 10 years of data, which is already housed in your POS. So we have full access to it. And with that data, we're able to figure out, what is your short-term trend? What is your long-term trend? How does the day of the week affect bread? How does the time of the day? How does yearly seasonality factor it in? And now we've gotten even more advanced where it's, how does the weather impact your bread? And what's on your menu and limited time offerings? And when you take all of this data together and you utilize tools like AI, you're able to just turbocharge, these predictions and get the accurate number that restaurant really needs.
How long does it take to gather all of that data?
Really doesn't take long. I mean, that's fundamentally what we've built over at ClearCogs. So that's all an automated process at this point. We onboard a new restaurant. It's literally the click of a button and the systems start working. It starts pulling in the data. It starts pulling in weathers. It starts analyzing your menu to figure out days that you were likely stocked out of product and backfilling that data so that we have good data sets and figuring out what your catering is. All of this is automated. The only thing that's left is to sit down and have a therapy session and understand what are the 20 or 30 questions that really matter in your operation that you need to see each day so that you make better decisions.
And then how does AI come into play here? What does AI do with all of that information?
I like to think of AI as just a great general manager. If you're able to just sit your GM down for a day or a week and say, figure out bread and how the day of the week affects it at this store and how weather affects it in store 1 versus 2. So AI basically goes in and figures out at this store, these are the important variables and these are how they should be weighted. Another way of putting it is, everybody's familiar with ChatGPT at this point. ChatGPT is really just predicting the next word in a sentence. That's what AI is really good at, predicting the next number in a sequence. And so being able to look at a big time series of usage data and predict what the next usage number will be, that's what AI is fundamentally doing.
Hey there, podcast friends. I hope you're enjoying these impactful conversations and leadership insights I'm bringing you each week. Before we dive back into today's episode, I want to take a moment and reach out and ask a small favor that would go a long way in supporting the show. If you've been loving the content I'm providing, please take a moment to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Not only does it make my day, but it also plays a pivotal role in helping the show grow. Your reviews boost my visibility, attract new listeners, and encourage exciting guests to join me on the mic. So if you want to be part of my show's growth journey, hit that review button and let me know what you think. Thanks a million for being awesome listeners.
Howdy, listener. Are you also a podcaster seeking to stand out in the crowded audio landscape? I'm here to help. L. Connor Voice, LLC offers top-tier audio engineering, meticulous content management, and more, all tailored to save you time and elevate your podcast to new heights of professionalism. With L. Connor Voice, you can focus on what you do best, creating captivating content, while I handle the rest. Say goodbye to hours spent tweaking audio levels and managing uploads. I ensure your podcast shines with polished sound quality and seamless delivery. Ready to take your podcast to the next level? Contact L. Connor Voice, LLC today and make producing your podcast as easy as hitting record. For more information, go to lconnorvoice.com. Links are in the episode notes.
So with prediction comes a certain level of trust, right? And some risk. So how, with using AI, how are you coaching and guiding your clients on how much to trust that data? Do they lean all in? Do they start off cautious and build over time? What does that look like?
I'm amazed at how many just go all in. We're going to follow it.
Sure. It's easy, right?
It also gives me like heart palpitations that it's because you give them a wrong number and that's a really bad day for somebody.
Totally.
But look, the vast majority of the waste in restaurants isn't this, one-time event, the president's in town speaking. It's the random Tuesday night where you're over prepping $5 in all of these different categories and you have one additional driver that you didn't need. So I always tell people that, 95% of the time, 98% of the time, this is going to be great. But, it's always great to have a manager there to recognize that there's a, random pop-up farmer's market that's opened up literally across the street. And you might want to react to that.
When clients are coming to you, are they saying, let's start with one ingredient at a time and then build from there? Or are they saying like, give us everything you've got and we're going to implement a bunch of changes to our entire program?
I mean, they tend to say the latter, although I think the former is the right way to do it. Start with whatever those 5 decisions are that really matter. You're the barbecue place. If you're smoking your brisket the day before for the next day, if you get it wrong, You're probably having waste and you're throwing it out in the night, your food costs are up. If you're doing too little, you're not only losing out on revenue, but you're probably providing a poor customer experience and losing out on revenue that you would get into the future. So start with those key questions like brisket, and pulled pork. And then once you get a feel for it, it becomes really apparent how you would use this for all of these different factors.
So you talked a little bit about being able to help your cousin with bread, with the example of bread. Talk a little bit about, share a success story with a larger company that's been able to really take all this data and apply it across every line on their P&L. What does that look like?
Yeah, we're working out with a group out of LA. It's a commissary style organization. So they're preparing everything in one centralized kitchen, and then hub and spoke, they're distributing it out to the restaurants. I love the model. It makes total sense. And they were skeptical. It was a bunch of Cheesecake Factory guys. They felt like, we know how to run restaurants. We do a good job. And when we put this in place, literally within the first month in the first location, they saved $6,800, which is just life-changing money for most restaurant operators. Or, Red, White, and Q barbecue place just outside of New York. I always do 8 racks of ribs, on Tuesdays, and I get your report in and it says 6, and I'm like, I don't know about that. And I do 6, and sure enough, there's only half a rack left at the end of the day. It's it's success stories like that give us fuel to build this.
Yeah, I love that. How many locations did the LA concept have?
6.
Okay, love it. Once your customers get all this data and the AI, do you help them understand how to implement it in their business, or do you let them kind of take it and run with it? What does that relationship look like?
Well, the answer is yes. So we absolutely go in to help them implement it. We build it around the individual customer. Going back to all of the data, the key isn't the fact that we analyze 100 million data points every day to figure out how many briskets. It's how do you take 100 million data points and turn it into just one data point? This is the number of briskets for you, so that there's no dashboards. I don't need to be a data scientist to do this. I'm looking at the same prep sheet or labor scheduling sheet that I always looked at, except it's now populated with the numbers that I need. So
when there's an error in the brisket number and you say, okay, or rack of ribs, right? We'll go back to that example. They've been producing 8. The data now tells them 6. They've tried that. They're running out. Then what happens?
Well, fortunately, it doesn't happen that often. But that's one of those beautiful things about AI. So it self-corrects, just like a great general manager. If we ran you out yesterday, the system identifies that and says, okay, well, we need to up our forecasts. But, the smarter aspect of it is, like for a manager, it's an emotional reaction. I did 6 racks of ribs yesterday and I ran out. So I'm going to do 9 racks today. Well, that might have been a Sunday to a Monday, and Monday's a totally different demand pattern. And maybe you really just needed to up it for the next Sunday. That's the kind of thing that this whole big data AI really is good at.
That's awesome. Now, are you guys behind the scenes kind of watching what's happening with your accounts and giving recommendations or helping them going, hey, watch out here, something's weird?
Yes. I get hundreds and hundreds of these accuracy reports every day. And we've got a team of data scientists that review it all. Now at least, we do our weekly meeting where we're going over, globally how, sales patterns are and, where the system might be under forecasting or over forecasting. But
I love it.
Fundamentally, when you go from guessing or, a moving average of sales or even sales forecasting to a true time series usage AI forecasting system, it's like going from the horse and buggy to the automobile. It's just light years ahead.
How many hours a week do you think operators are spending on this?
I think it depends on the operation. I would say that it's, 30 minutes a day. So you're probably spending 3.5 hours a week going over Excel spreadsheets or, figuring out the math of what do I need to produce? What do I need to order? But, I think a lot of restaurants out there just don't even think about it or spend time. I've got a weekly ordering guide that has my set pars, and I order up to the pars every week. And, whenever they break, I just kind of update it and make it a little bit higher. Or, it's a Tuesday. This is what I always do. And it's those restaurants that, are the ones that see, really meaningful impact in their profitability.
Love it. You are so passionate about AI and helping restaurants enhance their businesses. What's the opportunity look like from your perspective when it comes to AI and restaurants?
I think it's a game changer. I think the restaurant industry, you know this, it's about hospitality. People get into this industry because they want to serve people. They want to create magical experiences. They don't get into it to be, data scientists and, number crunchers. And AI is never going to change, the hospitality side of things and creating those magical moments and serving people. But it's really good at managing the metrics. So if we can somehow empower, the restaurant operator out there to not have to focus on the things that they hate and the analytics, the number crunching, and can then just spend their time focusing on the team and the customer, it's just a better industry. It's what motivates me every day.
Yeah, it's such a great tool for them to just block and tackle, right? And just move on to where they want to spend their time and their energy. I love that. What does the future look like for CLEARCOGS?
Yeah, ultimately, what I described before, how do we have the AI basically being able to be your fractional COO, CFO, that person that sits on top of all of your data, and synthesizes it down into the answer to the one question we all want to know. What do I need to know today? What are the things that matter? With these large language models and, the low cost of cloud computing, all of a sudden, that's becoming a reality that we march forward to every day. But I'm curious your perspective on this whole AI in restaurants. You talk with a ton of people in the industry. What do you see?
Well, I work with the majority of the people that I work with are in the independent space. And some of them are just in love with tech and some of them are still really skeptical of tech, right? When you put in a new tech system and you're an independent operator, it's just another thing that you have to manage, right? So it takes time to get in, to learn it, to become the expert in it, and then figure out how to use it. And so I love that AI is speeding things up, of course, and I love this perspective that you're providing of it being an excellent GM or fractional CFO or COO. But there's some hesitancy, right? Like I asked earlier, like how do you trust this? I use AI in my business every single day from a solopreneur perspective. I couldn't do what I'm doing at the level and quality that I am without AI. I'm a huge proponent of it. And so I love what you're doing. And, as you were describing the future of this and where you're going, I had a vision of being back in an operational seat, coming in the morning, getting on the computer going, it's Tuesday. Here's my staffing. Here's how much we're producing. Here's what we should actually be doing based on today. How do we make adjustments before the doors even open and everybody comes in? Right? Holy shit. To have that kind of power and knowledge and plan set for every single shift every day, that's ridiculous.
Well, it's probably the thing that I'm most excited about right now. So we have traditionally worked with larger chains. Not everybody can have a full AI operations management system built around their restaurant, but we love the independent operators out there. And one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to democratize access to these tools. So we just went live on the Toast Marketplace, and we're offering a freemium plan where we're giving a suite of tools away for free to restaurant operators. And these are not things that you need to go work to implement. It's things like free sales forecasting. What are my sales going to be for tomorrow? Or just a helpful hand sitting on top of your data to say, it looks like you stocked out of those ribs yesterday and you lost X dollars of revenue as a result. Or even here are your trend reports and where, what products are working and selling as they should, what are outperforming and what are underperforming. And these are things that, we can do with AI that don't require any inputs from the operations team. And, may not fundamentally change your life, but sure make it a whole lot easier.
Nice. So you mentioned earlier you're pulling data from all the back of the house. Are you integrated with every POS system, or is it just Toast specific right now?
There's a 52% chance if you walk into a restaurant, we're integrated with their POS, but it's a large fragmented market. For the most part, we're integrated with all the major players.
Okay. Is there a labor component to this as well right now?
Yeah, there is. We found out pretty quickly if you have a crystal ball that can tell me the future, that's relevant for more than just getting clarity on your food costs. You can use it for labor as well. So yes, we do, and we can base it off not just sales and your overall labor target goal, but I always go back to Jimmy John's because I'm a sandwich slinger at heart. I want to raise my revenue or my labor based on how many sandwiches I'm selling. I don't care about drinks and chips. I want to know how many people I need to have on the line. And so we can do very targeted things on the labor front.
How can this help expanding restaurateurs know their next location, their next successful restaurant concept? How can AI help them with that?
Well, a Vocalize does a very good job of this, of being able to suck in all of this data and to be able to help you understand where you should open up your next restaurant. I have no idea how to do that. I always felt like opening restaurants was like playing Russian roulette. Like you go in an open day and you find out whether you're going to get shot in the head or not, or whether you open the we rely on your operational data. So we need you to have at least been in business for 3 months before we're much of a solution for you. But I think that on the expansion side, we watched as COVID took a lot of our skilled restaurant people out of the industry. We had this knowledge suck, and now we're kind of in this rebuilding state, and finding our next leaders. I think that the biggest thing that it offers is the ability to systemize some of these decisions. How do you take the best manager and the way they think about it, digitize it, and automate it so that when you're moving manager from store 1 to store 2, or you're trying to open up 20 units next year, you've got a system in place so that you're not leaking money out with these small decisions every day.
Matt, do you feel like this is going to eventually replace restaurant managers?
No, I think it just, not at all. So I think that restaurant managers are asked to do way too much today. They're asked to run the business, run the analytics side of the business, to train and inspire their team, and then to go walk into the lobby and have a wonderful conversation with a customer and build those relationships. Just too much. If we could self-select managers that work great with people and not analytics, I think that you're just shifting what their focus is towards.
Yeah. What do you think the impact's going to be on the accounting teams in restaurants and CFO positions going forward?
Yeah. When you look at restaurant technology today, it is basically retrospective reporting. We have every report known to man to tell you why you're failing and where you failed. And we have no technology that can tell you in advance what to do so that you don't fail. And that is less of an accounting function because the accountants are just the ones that put all the numbers together to show you all of your failures or successes. We're playing more on the operations side of it. So our job is to make the general manager's life easier and more days go well and according to plan. And the only effect on the accounting side of things is the numbers look a lot better.
That's awesome. Before we leave, I'd love to understand from your seat, how are you developing yourself as a leader and CEO?
Boy, it's a great question, and it's a never-ending journey. I honestly look back at my time at restaurants to help inform what I need to be as a leader because, in the industry, it's such a quick feedback cycle, right? You say the wrong thing to an employee, they just take their apron off, quit, and walk out the door, right? So you learn really quickly how to motivate, inspire, and manage people. I hate to say that I'm going soft on the technology side of things because, it's not as many people and as many relationships, but, I think that same ethos is something that I'm drawn back to and try and do. But I also do executive coaching, always trying to step into a better version of myself.
That's awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else we should talk about before we depart?
Well, you tell me. Is there anything else we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I think you did an awesome job of taking us through that perfect example of bread. I really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of one ingredient and kind of the path of success there, and love seeing this on a larger operational scale as well. I'm excited about the future. Again, I'm a huge proponent of AI. I know there's a lot of uncertainty around it, and it's moving really, really fast. But I agree with you that the possibilities, especially for independent operators, are just endless. And I really just thank you for being here today and sharing your story. I love that you started on this journey when you were 21 and were able to see that playbook in action and take something so simple and then elevate it into this awesome business. And you've got this, amazing team of 10 and growing. So just excited to stay connected with you and watch your journey. It's really exciting.
Kristen, before we go, I always have one question I like to ask, and that is, the heartbeat of the industry right now. What is on the minds of restaurant operators out there?
It's labor models in full service. How do they afford people and continue to take a salary and overcome, I think the service charge continues to put a lot of pressure on operators to deliver incredible value. And we know that rising COGS are putting a lot of pressure on that value and that experience to customers, right? We're seeing less and less people dining out. So I say labor, but it's the pressure's coming from everywhere right now. Even the restaurants that are really successful, that are full every night, are still scratching their head going, how the hell am I going to continue to pay people a livable wage, a fair wage, an equitable wage between the front and the heart for years to come? It's just really expensive right now, and that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I would say it's not going anywhere. So where does this lead in the next couple of years?
It's innovative thinking. It's really looking at the business model and, like you said, getting really smart with your data, what's working, leaning into that, being able to let go what's not working and get over the ego and the pride of what you've built, and making really smart, informed business decisions. Because a lot of the independents that I've worked with through my 20 years in my career, it's been emotionally backed decisions, right? It's been, there's a location, a couple miles down the road that just popped up. Let's just go over there and open a restaurant, and then we'll figure out what the concept is. But the location's available, right? They can't operate like that anymore. They've got to be well informed and planned and farther ahead of it than they've ever been, and more cautious. The risk is greater than it's ever been. So this data is it's so important, and their leadership development is so important.
It's funny that you go to the data, because that is the way that I see it as well. That unfortunately, it's the restaurant concepts that have mastered the cold analytics of the business that are winning. They don't necessarily have the best service. They don't necessarily have the best food. Yet they're not the ones winning. And I sure hope that this new wave of technology can level that playing field.
Yeah, me too. I think it can. I think it's, again, I think it's a really cool opportunity. I think it's fun, it's innovative, it's different, and the industry really needs that. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us this week. Please be sure to share this podcast with any leaders you know in the restaurant industry, and visit my website, kristenmarvin.com, for more leadership development resources. We'll see you next week.